Welcome back, coin enthusiasts. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the history, value, and significance of the 1975 Liberty 1-cent coin, also known as the 1975 Lincoln cent. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your journey into numismatics, this penny has an intriguing story to tell, and for some, it might even be worth more than its face value. Stick around to learn all about the 1975 penny's historical context, key features, valuable errors, and what makes certain coins from this year more desirable for collectors. Let's find out if you've got a hidden gem in your collection. To truly understand the importance of the 1975 Liberty 1 cent, we need to take a quick look at the long and storied history of the Lincoln cent. First minted in 1909, the Lincoln cent was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was groundbreaking because Lincoln was the first real person to appear on a U.S. coin. Up until then, U.S. coinage mainly featured symbolic figures representing liberty or other abstract ideals. From 1909 to 1958, the reverse of the Lincoln cent displayed two wheat stalks, giving birth to what collectors call the wheat penny. In 1959, to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design was changed to feature the iconic Lincoln Memorial, which lasted until 2008. The 1975 Lincoln cent falls into this era of the Lincoln Memorial reverse, making it a part of U.S. numismatic history that many collectors focus on completing. The 1975 Lincoln cent was produced in large numbers at two major U.S. mints, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. You can easily identify where your penny was minted by checking for the mint mark beneath the date on the obverse side of the coin. No mint mark. If your 1975 penny has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. D mint mark. If there's a small d under the date, your coin was minted in Denver. Both mints produced billions of pennies in 1975, with the Philadelphia Mint churning out around 5.4 billion and the Denver Mint producing approximately 4.5 billion. Despite these high production numbers, certain varieties and conditions can make your 1975 penny significantly more valuable to collectors. Now, let's talk about the composition of the 1975 penny. From 1962 to 1981, U.S. pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that gave these pennies a distinctive weight and feel. A 1975 penny weighs 3.11 grams, making it heavier than pennies produced after 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched to a primarily zinc composition to save money on copper costs. This copper composition means that even in today's market, the metal in a 1975 penny is worth more than its face value, though it's illegal to melt down pennies for their copper content. Regardless, collectors prize these pre-1982 pennies for their copper weight, as well as for their numismatic value. While most 1975 pennies are only worth a cent in circulation, certain errors and varieties can make specific coins from this year quite valuable. Let's go over the most important ones to watch out for. 1. Double die obverse DDO. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die obverse, where the design features, like Lincoln's profile, the date, or the word liberty, appear double due to a misalignment of the dies. While no major DDO variety has been confirmed for the 1975 penny, it's always worth checking your coins closely for any doubling, as these can be worth anywhere from 50 to 200 or more. 2. Off-center strikes. A more common error is the off-center strike, where the design is misaligned, leaving part of the coin blank. The more off-center the strike, the higher its value, with some examples fetching 20 to 150 depending on how much of the design is missing. 3. Die cracks and cuds. During the minting process, the dies used to strike coins can sometimes crack or break, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal known as die cracks or cuds on the coin's surface. While these errors are more subtle, they can still add value to the coin, with prices ranging from 10 to 50. 4. Repunched mint mark RPM. In some cases, the mint mark on a coin is punched more than once, creating a variety known as a repunched mint mark, or RPM. Collectors seek out these RPM varieties, and a 1975 penny with this error can be worth 10 to 100 depending on the condition and visibility of the error. As with any collectible coin, the condition of your 1975 penny plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS-70 being a perfect, uncirculated coin that shows no signs of wear or damage. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. Here's a breakdown of what you can expect based on your coin's condition. Circulated condition: fine to extremely fine. Most 1975 pennies found in circulation are worth 1 to 5 cents depending on the amount of wear. Uncirculated condition: mint state 60 to 64. A 1975 penny that hasn't been circulated and is in decent condition can be worth 0.25 to 1. High grade mint state MS 65 or higher. If you have a 1975 penny in mint state 65 or higher, it could be worth 5 to 15 or more depending on its quality and whether it's been graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. Error coins and rare varieties. As we mentioned earlier, error coins or rare varieties from 1975, such as off-center strikes or RPMs, can range from $10 to several $100 depending on the error and grade. One interesting aspect of the 1975 penny is its copper content. As we mentioned earlier, these pennies contain 95% copper, which gives them an intrinsic value tied to the price of the metal. Although it's illegal to melt down U.S. pennies for their copper, many collectors and investors still stockpile pre-1982 pennies, hoping that one day the melting restriction will be lifted. In today's market, the copper in a 1975 penny is worth around 2 to 3 cents. That may not sound like much, but if the laws were to change, the value of these pennies could increase significantly based on their metal content alone. So even if you're just collecting for fun, holding on to your 1975 pennies might be a smart investment in the long run. So, should you keep your 1975 Liberty 1-cent coins? Absolutely. While most circulated examples won't fetch much more than their face value, the potential for finding rare varieties and errors, along with the intrinsic value of the copper content, makes these pennies worth holding onto. Additionally, many collectors are working on assembling complete sets of Lincoln Memorial cents, and the 1975 penny is an essential part of that set. If you have a high-grade version of this coin, or if you discover an error variety, it could significantly add to your collection's value. Welcome back, coin collectors and history buffs. Today we are taking a deep dive into the 1970 Liberty 1-cent coin, also known as the 1970 Lincoln cent. You may think that a penny minted in the year of America's bicentennial is just like any other, but there's so much more to this little piece of American history. Stick around as we break down the full history behind this coin, why it holds significance, and how certain varieties of the 1970 penny could be worth a lot more than 1 cent. Before we get into the specific details of the 1970 penny, we need to set the stage with a bit of history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a landmark coin for the United States because it was the first to feature the likeness of an actual person rather than a symbolic figure or a representation of liberty. Fast forward to 1976, a monumental year in U.S. history as it marked the country's bicentennial, celebrating 200 years since the Declaration of Independence. Many coins minted in 1976 were issued with special bicentennial designs such as the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. However, the Lincoln cent kept its traditional design, featuring Lincoln's portrait on the obverse front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse back. Even though the penny didn't get a special design in 1976, it's still part of a historically significant year, making it a popular coin for collectors. But what sets the 1970 penny apart? Let's dive into the details. Now, let's talk about that small letter beneath the date on your 1970 penny, the D min mark. This indicates that the coin was minted at the Denver Mint, one of the United States' primary coin-producing facilities. The Denver Mint has been in operation since 1906, and by the mid-20th century, it was responsible for producing a large portion of the country's coinage. In 1976, the Denver Mint struck a whopping 4.2 billion Lincoln cents. While this might make the 1970 60 penny seem common, there are some key factors like condition and errors that can drastically increase its value. We'll get into that soon. One important thing to know about the 1970 60 penny is its composition. At the time, pennies were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, a metal blend that was used for U.S. pennies from 1962 to 1981. Each penny from this period weighs 3.11 grams, making it distinct from later pennies, which were made primarily of zinc starting in 1982. This copper-heavy composition gives the 1970 60 penny an intrinsic value tied to the metal content itself. Although it's illegal to melt down pennies for their metal, copper hoarders have long seen pre-1982 pennies as valuable just for the copper content alone. So, even if you are holding a common 1970 60 penny, it still has more intrinsic value than a zinc penny from today. Now, let's talk about what really makes the 1970 60 penny interesting for collectors. While billions of these pennies were produced, some specific varieties and errors have made certain examples much more valuable than others. Let's take a look at some of the key errors and varieties that could turn your 1970 60 penny into a sought-after collectible. 1. Double die adverse DDO. One of the most valuable types of errors is the double die adverse, where the details of the coin's design appear doubled due to a misalignment of the dies used in minting. In particular, doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the word Liberty can fetch high prices. A well-preserved 1970 60 penny with a DDO can be worth $50 to $200 or more depending on the severity of the doubling. 2. Off-center strikes. Another highly collectible error is the off-center strike, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. These off-center pennies can be missing anywhere from 5% to 90% of the design. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin can be, with prices ranging from $10 to $150 or more. 3. Die cracks and cuds. Sometimes during the minting process, the dies used to strike the coins develop cracks, which then transfer to the coin's surface. These cracks, known as die cracks and cuds, where part of the die breaks off, leaving a blank area on the coin, can make a 1970 60 penny worth $10 to $100 depending on the size and prominence of the error. 4. Repunched mintmark RPM. Occasionally, the mintmark on a coin is stamped more than once, resulting in a repunched mintmark or RPM. This error can be subtle, but collectors pay a premium for these kinds of varieties. A 1970 60 penny with a visible RPM can be worth $10 to $50 depending on condition. When it comes to determining the value of your 1970 60 penny, condition is key. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS 70 mint state 70 being a flawless coin that shows no signs of wear or handling. Even a minor difference in grade can result in a big difference in value. Here's a breakdown of what you can expect based on the condition of a 1970 60 penny. Circulated condition. Most 1970 60 pennies you'll find in circulation are worth 1 to 2 cents. These are pennies that have been used in everyday transactions and show signs of wear. Uncirculated condition. Mint state 6064. A 1970 60 penny that hasn't been in circulation and is in decent condition might be worth 0.25 to 1. High-grade mint state MS 65 or higher. If you have got a 1970 60 penny in excellent condition, especially if it has been professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC, it could be worth 5 to 15 or more. Error coins and rare varieties. Error coins, such as those with a double die obverse or off-center strike, can be worth $50 to several $100 depending on the error and the coin's condition. As we mentioned earlier, the 1970 60 penny contains 95% copper, giving it intrinsic value tied to the metal itself. While it's illegal to melt pennies for their copper content, the metal in each 1970 60 penny is worth about 2 to 3 cents in today's market. This means that, technically, these pennies are worth more than their face value just for the copper alone. Some collectors and copper hoarders hold on to pre-1982 pennies in the hope that one day, it will be legal to melt them down for their copper content, at which point the value of these coins could skyrocket. In conclusion, the 1970 60 Liberty 1-cent coin may look like an ordinary penny at first glance, but its history, metal content, and the potential for rare varieties make it a fascinating coin for collectors. Whether you've got a 1970 60 penny in circulation or a high-grade version tucked away, it's always worth checking for errors and considering the condition, as these factors could turn your penny into a valuable collector's item. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1970 60 penny, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos about the world of coin collecting. Who knows? You might have a rare coin sitting right in your pocket. Welcome back, coin enthusiasts. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of US coinage, and we are going to explore a coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now, the 1981D Liberty 1-cent coin, also known as the 1981D Lincoln cent. While it might seem like just another penny at first glance, the history, variations, and possible value of this coin could surprise you. Stick around as we break down the history of this penny, why it's significant, and how much it could be worth. To fully appreciate the 1981 Lincoln cent, we need to take a step back and look at its historical context. By 1981, the Lincoln cent had been in circulation for 72 years. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin replaced the Indian head cent and was the first U.S. coin to feature a historical figure's face. For much of the 20th century, the design of the penny stayed consistent, with Lincoln's profile on the obverse the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse the back. This design change to the Lincoln Memorial happened in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1981, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents to keep up with the country's demand for small change. But what makes the 1981D penny so special? Well, it was one of the last years that pennies were composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. The next year, in 1982, the composition changed due to rising copper prices, making the 1981 pennies among the last to feature this historic metal content. Now, let's talk about that small but important detail, the D mint mark on the 1981D Lincoln cent. That D stands for the Denver Mint, where this penny was produced. The U.S. Mint operates several locations, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. In 1981, both the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced billions of pennies for circulation, but the Denver minted coins carry the distinguishing D under the date. Denver mint pennies are incredibly common because the Denver facility produces coins in massive quantities. However, as we'll explore in a bit, the value of a 1981D penny can vary significantly based on its condition, mint errors, and other factors. As I mentioned earlier, the 1981D penny was one of the last years in which pennies were made from 95% copper. From 1962 until 1981, Lincoln cents were struck with this copper-zinc alloy. In fact, each of these pennies contains about 2.98 grams of copper, which, depending on copper prices, can sometimes give the coin an intrinsic value higher than its face value. This metal composition shift is a key reason why pre-1982 pennies, including the 1981D penny, are popular with collectors, investors, and even those interested in copper hoarding. Starting in 1982, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc composition, 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, which drastically reduced the cost of producing pennies, but also changed the feel and weight of the coin. Let's talk about numbers. In 1981, the Denver Mint produced an impressive 5.3 billion pennies. Yes, that's billion with a B. With such high mintage numbers, most 1981D pennies are common in circulated condition. In your everyday pocket change, finding a 1981D penny isn't all that rare. However, just because there are billions of these coins out there doesn't mean they're worthless. Far from it. The condition, or grade, of the coin plays a crucial role in determining its value. Here's where things get really interesting. While most 1981D pennies are only worth their face value, certain varieties, errors, and well-preserved examples can be worth a lot more. Let's go through some of the key factors that can make your 1981D penny more valuable. 1. Mint state condition. A 1981D penny in uncirculated or near perfect condition can be worth more than a penny. Coins that are graded as MS-65 or higher mint state 65 or better by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC can fetch prices of 5 to 10 each, sometimes more if they're in pristine condition. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. 2. Double die errors. Double die varieties are always a big deal for collectors. If your 1981D penny shows signs of doubling on the inscriptions, especially on the date or the word Liberty, you could be holding on to a very valuable error coin. Depending on the severity and location of the doubling, these pennies can sell for $50 to several $100s. 3. Off-center strikes. Coins that were struck improperly at the mint and appear off-center are also highly sought after. These coins can show anywhere from 5% to 90% of the design being off, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin. Off-center 1981D pennies can sell for $20 to $200 depending on the degree of the error. 4. Die cracks and cuds. A less common but still valuable error is the appearance of die cracks or cuds on the coin's surface. A die crack is a raised line on the coin caused by a cracked die during minting, while a cud is a missing portion of the coin's design due to a broken die. Depending on the size and visibility of the crack or cud, these coins can bring in anywhere from 10 to 100. Let's talk about coin grading, which is a critical factor when determining the value of any 1981D penny. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with a grade of MS-70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Most pennies that have been in circulation will grade between VF20 very fine and $58 Australian almost uncirculated. Coins that are uncirculated or in mint state MS condition can command a premium from collectors. Here's a quick breakdown of the value range based on grade. Circulated condition VG to XF grades. Most circulated 1981D pennies are worth 1 to 2 cents simply because they are so common. Uncirculated condition MS60 to MS64. These coins can be worth around 0.25 to 2 depending on the market and demand. Mint state MS65 or higher. If your penny is in near perfect condition, it could be worth anywhere from 5 to 10 or more depending on how well preserved it is and whether it's been professionally graded. Getting your coin graded by a service like PCGS or NGC can significantly boost its value, especially if it's an error coin or in mint state condition. Now here's a fun fact. Since the 1981D penny is made primarily of copper, it has intrinsic value based on the metal content alone. While it's illegal to melt down pennies for their metal, the copper content in each 1981D penny is worth more than its face value. As of today's copper prices, a pre-1982 penny's copper content is worth about 0.02 to 0.03. So technically, these pennies are worth more than their face value just for the copper inside them. This has led to a phenomenon where collectors and even investors are holding on to pre-1982 pennies in large quantities, hoping that one day, they will be able to legally melt them down for the copper. So while the 1981D Liberty 1-cent coin might seem like just another penny at first glance, it's got. Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel where we explore the fascinating world of coins, currency, and hidden treasures. Today, we are diving into one of the most interesting coins from the 1980s, the 1984D Liberty 1-cent coin, also known as the 1984D Lincoln cent. Whether you've got one in your pocket right now or you're just curious about the history and value of this humble penny, stick around because you might be sitting on a small fortune. Let's dig into the history, the minting process, and what makes certain 1984D pennies worth a lot more than 1 cent. To fully understand the significance of the 1984 Lincoln cent, we need to go back to the early 20th century. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was groundbreaking for being the first U.S. coin to feature the likeness of a real historical figure, and Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was a natural choice. The obverse side of the coin, featuring Lincoln's profile, has remained largely unchanged since then. By the 1980s, the penny had become an iconic piece of American currency, used by millions in everyday transactions. The reverse side of the penny from 1959 to 2008 featured the Lincoln Memorial, which was added to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This makes the 1984 penny part of a long-running design legacy that combines both American history and the art of coinage. The 1980s saw high production numbers for pennies as they were still a key part of everyday commerce. The 1984 D Lincoln cent minted at the Denver Mint is part of this larger history. But as we'll see, certain varieties and eras from this year can make these pennies highly collectible and valuable. Let's talk about the Denver Mint and the importance of the D mint mark on the 1984 D penny. The D beneath the date indicates that this penny was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the key facilities for U.S. coin production. The Denver Mint has been producing coins since 1906 and is known for its massive output. In 1984, the Denver Mint produced over 5.5 billion pennies. While this makes the 1984 D penny common in circulated condition, there are still factors that can make this coin stand out, particularly when it comes to era coins and coins in high-grade condition. The mint mark itself is important for collectors because it distinguishes pennies minted in Denver from those minted in Philadelphia and San Francisco. Each mint has its own production numbers and potential for rare varieties, which can impact the value. One of the key factors in the story of the 1984 D penny is its metal composition. Starting in 1982, pennies underwent a major change. Due to the rising cost of copper, the U.S. Mint switched the penny's composition from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a core of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating making up the remaining 2.5%. The 1984 penny, including the 1984 D version, is made of this copper-plated zinc composition. This was a significant shift because the weight and feel of the penny changed, and zinc is far less expensive than copper. Although the metal content may not be worth more than 1 cent today, there are other factors like condition, rarity, and eras that could make your 1984 D penny quite valuable. Now here's where things get really exciting. While most 1984 D pennies are only worth face value in circulated condition, there are several key varieties and eras that can make your 1984 D penny much more valuable. Let's dive into some of the most sought-after eras and varieties from this year. 1. 1984 Double Die Obverse DDO. This is one of the most famous and valuable eras from the 1980s, and it also exists in the 1984 D penny. A double die obverse occurs when the die used to strike the coins is misaligned or doubled, causing the design elements to appear doubled. On the 1984 penny, this doubling is most often seen on Lincoln's ear, and it's referred to as the doubled ear variety. If you find this error on your 1984 D penny, you could be looking at a coin worth 50 to 250 or more depending on its condition. 2. Off-center strikes. Another valuable error to look for is an off-center strike where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. The value of off-center pennies varies depending on how much of the design is missing. The more off-center the strike, the higher the value. These coins can be worth anywhere from 10 to 150. 3. Die cracks and cuds. Coins with die cracks, raised lines on the coin caused by a cracked die, or cuds, a piece of the coin missing due to a broken die, are also valuable. Depending on the severity of the crack or cud, these era coins can be worth 5 to 100. 4. Misaligned dies. Coins that were struck with misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse designs are not properly centered, can also be valuable. These errors are rarer and can fetch prices ranging from 20 to 200 depending on how far off the design is. If you happen to find any of these errors on a 1984 D penny, you have struck gold or, in this case, copper-plated zinc. When it comes to determining the value of a 1984 D penny, condition is key. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with mint state 70 ms, 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. Here's a breakdown of the value range based on condition and grade. Circulated condition: very fine to extremely fine grades. Most 1984 D pennies in circulated condition are worth 1 to 5 cents. They're common, but they can still hold sentimental or historical value. Uncirculated condition: MS60 to MS64. If you have got a 1984 D penny that hasn't been circulated and is in mint condition, it could be worth 0.25 to 1. High grade mint state: MS65 and higher. A 1984 penny in MS65 or higher condition can be worth 5 to 15 depending on market demand. Era coins and rare varieties. As mentioned earlier, era coins such as the double die obverse or off-center strikes can be worth anywhere from 50 to 250 or more. These coins are rare, so collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. If you think you have got a high-grade or era coin, it's worth considering getting it professionally graded by companies like PCGS or NGC, as this can significantly increase its value. So, is it worth holding on to your 1984 pennies? While the copper-plated zinc pennies do not have the same intrinsic value as their pre-1982 copper counterparts, they're still part of American coinage history. Collectors are particularly interested in era coins and high-grade examples from this era. If you have a 1984 penny that's in great condition, it could be worth holding on to, especially if you spot one of the eras we've discussed today. Another reason to consider keeping these pennies is the potential future value of rare varieties. As fewer era coins remain in circulation, their rarity and therefore their value can increase over time. In conclusion, the 1984 Liberty 1-cent coin is much more than just a penny. Its historical significance, potential. Welcome back, coin collectors and treasure hunters. Today's episode is all about the 1990 Liberty 1-cent coin, also known as the 1990 Lincoln cent. While it may seem like just another penny from recent history, there are some fascinating aspects to this coin that make it stand out in the world of numismatics. We're going to dive deep into the history of the 1990 Lincoln cent, explore any significant varieties and errors, and most importantly discuss how some of these coins can be worth far more than just 1 cent. So, let's get started and find out if your 1990 penny is actually a hidden treasure. To truly understand the 1990 Liberty 1 cent, we have to go back to the beginning of the Lincoln cent's legacy. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a groundbreaking moment in U.S. coinage because it was the first time a real historical figure was featured on American currency. Lincoln, one of the most revered U.S. presidents, was a natural choice. From 1909 to 1958, the reverse of the Lincoln cent displayed 2 wheat stalks, commonly referred to as the wheat penny design. In 1959, to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint replaced the wheat penny design with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which remained until 2008. The 1990 Lincoln cent was part of this iconic Lincoln Memorial design period, making it a significant part of U.S. coinage history. But what about the specifics of the 1990 penny? Was it just another year in the long history of Lincoln cents, or does it hold something more for collectors? Let's dig in. Now, let's talk about where the 1990 pennies were minted. Like most modern U.S. coins, the 1990 Lincoln cent was produced at multiple mint facilities, including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. You can tell which mint produced your penny by looking for the mint mark just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. No mint mark. If your 1990 penny has no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. D mint mark. If you see a small d under the date, your penny was minted in Denver. Both mints produced billions of pennies in 1990, with the Philadelphia Mint striking around 6.8 billion pennies and the Denver Mint striking 4.9 billion pennies. While these large production numbers might make the 1990 penny seem common, certain factors, like condition and errors, can still make specific coins valuable. Let's take a look at the composition of the 1990 penny. By this time, pennies had undergone a significant change in their metal content. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned from the traditional copper composition to a new copper-plated zinc composition due to the rising cost of copper. Pennies minted after 1982, including the 1990 Lincoln cent, are made of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating that makes up the remaining 2.5%. Each 1990 penny weighs 2.5 grams, which is lighter than the pre-1982 copper pennies that weighed 3.11 grams. This switch to zinc helped the U.S. government save money on coin production, but it also means that modern pennies have less intrinsic metal value than their earlier counterparts. However, don't let that fool you into thinking that your 1990 penny isn't worth more than face value. As we'll see, certain era coins and high-grade examples from this year can still hold considerable value for collectors. Now, here's where things get exciting. While the vast majority of 1990 pennies are only worth their face value in circulation, there are a few key varieties and eras that can make your 1990 Lincoln cent worth significantly more. Let's break down the most important ones. 1. 1990 No-S Proof Lincoln cent. This is by far the rarest and most valuable 1990 penny variety. Normally, proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint carry an S mint mark. However, a small number of 1990 proof pennies were mistakenly struck without the S mint mark, creating the 1990 No-S Proof Lincoln cent. These era coins are incredibly rare, with fewer than 200 known to exist. If you happen to have one, its value can range from $2,000 to $20,000 or more depending on the condition. 2. Die cracks and cuds. Like other years, the 1990 penny can exhibit errors caused by worn or damaged dies, leading to die cracks or cuds on the coin's surface. These are raised lines or missing areas where part of the die broke off. While not as valuable as the No-S proof error, these coins can still fetch 10 to 100 depending on the severity of the error. 3. Off-center strikes. Another error to look for is the off-center strike where the coin's design is not properly aligned. The more off-center the strike, the higher the value, with some off-center pennies selling for 20 to 150. 4. Double die obverse DDO. Although rarer for the 1990 penny, it's still possible to find examples with a double die obverse where the design elements, like the date or Lincoln's profile, appear doubled. These coins can be worth 50 to 200 or more depending on the level of doubling. 5. Misaligned dies. Occasionally, pennies are struck with misaligned dies causing the obverse and reverse designs to not line up properly. While not as dramatic as an off-center strike, these errors can still be worth 10 to 50. When it comes to determining the value of a 1990 penny, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Even a minor difference in grade can significantly impact the coin's value. Let's break it down by condition. Circulated condition: very fine to extremely fine. Most 1990 pennies found in circulation are only worth their face value 1 cent. They have been used in everyday transactions and show wear and tear. Uncirculated condition: MS 60 to MS 64. A 1990 penny that hasn't been circulated and is in decent condition might be worth 0.25 to 1. High-grade mint state: MS 65 and above. A 1990 penny in MS 65 or higher condition can be worth 5 to 10. Coins in MS 67 or MS 68 condition could fetch even higher prices, sometimes as much as 25 to 50. Era coins and rare varieties. As mentioned earlier, the 1990 No-S proof penny can be worth thousands of dollars, and other era coins, like die cracks or off-center strikes, can range from 10 to 200 depending on the error and grade. So, should you hold on to your 1990 Lincoln cents? While the vast majority of 1990 pennies are common and not worth more than face value, there are a few reasons why you might want to keep them. First, if you find one of the rare era varieties we talked about, it could be worth a lot more than 1 cent. Second, pennies are part of U.S. history, and even common pennies like the 1990 version tell the story of the country's monetary system. Additionally, many collectors focus on assembling complete sets of Lincoln Memorial pennies, and the 1990 penny is a key part of that set. Having a high-grade, uncirculated version of the